So this is a stream I've been promising for the last couple days since we did our taming spree. This is just going to be a short little video on what I do for breeding specifically. Now, I am working with the Argentavises, which we did manage to get some pretty good stats for. I managed to get every stat higher than 40 and one stat in the 50s, which with a 150 max wild is actually pretty good. Taking into account, you can then later mutate the creatures using mutators and things like that. You can actually get their stats up to 254 levels before they will break and you're not able to level them further. So, but that is for the future when we have mutators. For now, we are just going to work on normal breeding and getting the stats onto a single creature. So the first thing I did was I went and I looked through all of our different Argents, including the ones that my tribe mates have picked as their mounts. And I found that the best stats we have are actually on Not a Crow, on Super Dodo, and on Albatross. Now, I went ahead and kept the other females because the other females are just another chance at getting the stats off of our use pets. That way, I can have them on breeders that can stay here at the house and be less likely to die. And that way, if something does happen to them, we are able to then rebreed them and get those stats back. Now, I'm going to go ahead. Super Dodo has one stat. It is the 40 in melee. Now, generally, what I personally look for, a lot of players, they want all even stats. I like to do all even stats except for food. I like to do odd because food isn't really a stat that you level. So if we were to break that above 254 or if we were to have it less than that, it's not really a big deal. A lot of people don't even mutate food. But having one of the stats be an odd number makes it so that the creature's max level will be an even number. So if we get all, if Super Dodo had one odd stat, then his level would be theoretically even. That's just generally what we do. It's more relevant. I don't know that it works that way so much with the flyers because flyers do not put levels into speed. However, when you mutate them, they gain levels in speed, so it will even out in the end. Let me look at this. So I am going to go ahead and breed Super Dodo to these females that do not have any stats. And the hope is that at least one of these females will lay an egg that has that 40 melee. Because it is the highest stat of the set, there is actually a pretty good chance that that will happen. And then I'm going to take Not a Crow and Albatross over here. These two had the most stats. Not a Crow has our 46 health and 46 oxygen. Albatross has a 54 in stamina, 41 food, and 44 weight. So 5 of the stats that we want are on these two birds right here. So I'm going to go ahead and breed these guys together. Albatross, fortunately, is not a claimed mount, so she will be safe here at the base without causing much of a problem. Sorry, give me just a second. Sorry about that. My computer decided to get grumpy with me. Okay. So she can stay here at the base. So if her stats don't transfer, it's not a big deal. Not a Crow, however, and Super Dodo are use mounts. So it is something I really want to get their stats off before something ends up happening to them, which, knowing ARK, that's more of an eventuality than a possibility. Now, when they finish breeding, they will pop up like that, or they have their different animations, but they will all show an animation that lets you know that their breeding has completed. Now, some servers have the rebreed timers turned way down so you can rebreed much faster. Some have them turned way up so that it is as much as I've seen 48 hours between breedings. This server seems to have them turned down a bit. It's still looking like it's probably going to be a max of about 12 hours between, which means if you were really dedicated, you could get 2 breedings in. We will probably get no more than 1 breeding a day unless I decide to log in a second time. So these females are done. We're going to go ahead and put them away, and I'm going to give my tribe mate back his bird. And the awesome thing with this server, they have it set up so that the breeding timers will actually count down while they are in their soul balls. So there is no reason to leave them out for hours and days. Servers that have that turned off, you literally have to have every breeder out until you are done breeding them. Okay, these guys had their babies, so I'm going to put these away. I am not a duck goes back to Aries. Not a crow goes back to Gar. And now we have these eggs here. I'm going to go ahead and put Albatross in her pen. I do need to make a soul terminal specifically for breeders to just kind of tuck away. But this will have to do for now. Now, the next big thing with breeding is you have to be able to heat the eggs up enough for them to actually hatch. Now we just got a long neck print, so we are going to need lots of charcoal anyway. But furnaces are a great way to heat up the room until you have air conditioners. The other really good way is standing torches. As far as the standing torches go, if you're playing with N+, S+, or superstructures, unless the servers have specifically set it up so you can't, these are the way to go because they do not require any fuel. So you could put 30 torches out if you really wanted to. Although each egg has its own requirements. Dragon and rock drake eggs tend to be the most finicky, but they have their own temperature requirements. So what you do to find out if you don't have a hatchery and an incubator, which is honestly the easier way to go later on, hatchery will cook down the eggs pretty fast. Incubator will cook them down slower. But if you take them from the hatchery, put them in the incubator, it will finish cooking them down that last %. And then you can literally just crack the egg straight out of the incubator. Now, it has an option to crack an egg that will destroy the baby, but it will let you hatch it out of the incubator. So what we do to find out, we drop the egg. It says it's too hot, so we start turning off our heat sources until we get the timer. Apparently, she doesn't want any sources. That's interesting. And this egg is going to take 35 minutes to crack. Now, I am not going to make everybody sit here watching a 35-minute video on nothing but watching eggs crack. I don't know about you, but it's not very fun sitting here doing it, and I can't imagine watching it on the screen would be any more enjoyable than that. So, other things that I'm going to be looking at breeding as we get the stuff to breed them, as we get the stats we need, are the various work pets like the trikes and the therizinosaurs. We're going to be working on getting the rexes and other things for the boss and our general use pets. The one other thing I will show you, we do not have a nanny yet. I'm actually going to see before I grow these babies up if I can get a nanny. Because what the nanny is able to do is create an imprint, which gives a bonus to the pets for damage and damage reduction while you're riding them. That you can also do manually by sitting here. This animal wants care in an hour and 35 minutes. Depending on the server settings, if you sit here with the animal the entire time it's growing up, you can do the imprint manually. The nanny allows you to not be present and still do it. You can also put food inside the nanny and she will pop out food and put it into the baby's inventories. Babies do not actually eat. I just realized this is a juvenile. Babies do not actually eat from the trough until they become juveniles. However, like this Rex is a juvenile, so it will be eating out of the trough automatically. Now, this is a baby I tamed in the wild, and cool enough, it automatically imprinted up to where I tamed it. But let's see if any of these are baby babies. And I can just show you really quick. That guy is at 93%. That one's almost an adult. This one's at 56%, so it is an adolescent. 38%. Okay. So we do not have any actual babies at the moment, but the process is still pretty similar. For a baby, if you don't have a nanny, you just have to make sure you keep food in their inventory until they reach 10%. Then they will go from a baby to a juvenile. Once they hit juvenile, they will eat from the trough. However, I don't know if they fixed the bug. It's better to be safe than sorry. If you need to be within render range of the baby after they become a juvenile, or at some point after they become a juvenile, because sometimes they don't actually redirect to the trough, and so they don't eat. And you will end up with your baby starving to death, even though there's plenty of food in the trough because it just never started eating. Other than that, let me see how far we are from the nanny. The nanny is the real big one. The nanny really takes care of those babies for you. However, she is pretty expensive to make, and I will need to build one last major structure before we'll be able to use her, unless it's possible the server has different requirements. And we will check that in just a moment. Generally speaking, the nanny needs beer in her inventory until you reach a tech generator. This one actually just requires power, so you just need a normal generator nearby, and she will feed the babies and imprint them. However, we do need human hair. It takes 50 human hair to make a nanny. So we get to all go bald. It's just part of the territory here. Fortunately, the hair grows back pretty fast, so I'm sure my tribe mates will forgive me. That's Aries in the background. He will forgive me as soon as he gets his nice fancy animal. Now, we were able to get an Anki last video, which allowed us to get the metal that we need. And we were able to kill some tech creatures for electronics. So I'm going to see, we should theoretically be able to make a quick little haphazard generator. Yep. And that means the only other thing that we are lacking to be able to use this nanny is we need gasoline. Let's get that started. Turn that on. Okay, they are still incubating. It looks like they started to get a little too cold because they lost some egg health. That can happen as it gets nighttime. That's why air conditioners are far superior, because the air conditioners, you do not ever have to worry about the change of day cycle. Just if you're noticing you're still having problems, just add another air conditioner. Now, because we are not able to get all the structures, or we don't have all the structures yet for the crafting room, which we are going to be doing our building video on Wednesday. But because this room is open at the moment, I'm just going to place the generator here in the middle of the room. We will make a generator box for it later. And I am going to make what we affectionately call the Nick box generator. We had an old friend that we used to play ARK with all the time. And we always found it funny. His way of making a generator was to literally place in the middle of the room a generator, a wire, and an outlet into the air. However, for a purpose like this, it works just fine. We don't need anything fancy right now. So Nanny is already turned on. One of the major settings I always change with her is set her to feed 50 food, because she does have a delay between feedings. And the smaller animals, things like dilos and jerboas, small animals can take a really serious hit where they can starve to death between running out of food and her doing her next tick. So if you put it to 50 food, even if they cannot hold that weight in their inventory, she will automatically put it in their inventory, and that gives them a while to gain more weight capacity and to grow a bit before she has to feed them again, and gives them really the best chance to survive. Now, since we have the nanny, I'm going to go ahead and pull out our other couple babies that we tamed during the last stream. I had managed to find a little baby dire bear, and we got this cute little raptor. It's not a super high level. The dire bear was an amazing level. That was a great find. And then we have this little stegosaur. And we're going to go ahead and let those guys grow up. Now we have plenty of meat and berries in the trough, so they should grow just fine. If we start getting low on meat, I will put them away. Other than that, The only other thing I'm going to do is just go through our other animals and see if there's anything else worth breeding. I know we have some really good level pteranodons. I'm just going to have to stat map them and make sure that we have the stats I want. Now, specifically, it's even levels in everything but food, and I prefer an odd level in food specifically. So that is basically the rundown on what I do for breeding and what I look for. That's how you set up the nanny and her importance. Um, that is what you need as far as feeding them and as far as hatching them. So everybody does do it a little bit different. More commonly, people look for even in every single stat. The important thing is you don't just throw every animal together with every stat and hope for the best. You can actually plan out the best stats possible by being selective and looking between your creatures for the highest stats. Now, there have been times that all of my stats are on either a male or a female, and sometimes I'll go hunting and try to find the other sex that does get a better stat. More often than not, I'll take one that doesn't have stats, breed it with them, and when it gets one of the stats, I can change that over and use that guy to do my selective breeding. The big thing is to try to breed together the ones with the best stats and try to get all of those stats on one master creature and then get it a mate. And then you can infinitely breed those stats. And then if you get better stats later, it's more easy to breed those new stats onto your master creature than it is to start from scratch. And if you set aside a breeding pair with your best stats, you always have those stats available when ARK decides to do its thing and kill half of your animals because ARK. That Giga that spawns halfway across the map happened to somehow travel the entire map and end up in your base or something. So, that is all for this stream. I hope you will be able to check out on Wednesday. We will be finishing building the base, hopefully, or at least making more progress on it. And Saturday, we will be doing our next stream, which is going to be focusing heavily on capturing and taming the heavy hitters for caving and bosses, which is going to be coming up soon as we progress through the ARK to end game. We're going to be doing a little bit of a unique boss setup this time instead of the traditional just Rexes. We are going to do Rexes for the Megapithecus, which is the giant ape. We are going to do Megatheriums, which are these furry bug eaters, to fight the Broodmother. They get a special buff against bugs. And we are going to use Spinos against the dragon, because Spinos actually are just as tough and actually hit a little bit harder than Rexes generally, but they have slightly less life, which would seem like a bad thing if you're fighting a boss. However, the dragon does a percentage life drain. So having less overall life can actually be a boost when you have healer pigs and healer animals to help raise their health back up. So that is all. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please follow and support the channel. And otherwise, have a great rest of your day.